Video is becoming increasingly integral to solopreneurships and small businesses, but it still feels like it could add a bunch of time, effort, and budget to our business, or maybe expense is the better word there. That's why I brought on my friend Luria Petrucci. She has created studios for people like Michael Hyatt and Amy Porterfield and Pat Flynn, and she has a bunch of on-camera live production experience. She is the perfect person to talk to about this because the truth is, if you have a good system in place for creating video, it gets a lot easier. So Luria is going to tell us about the really important things, not all of the complicated gear you need, but how to have a good camera presence, how to frame your shot, and then some software to make it super helpful. I hope you'll enjoy this interview with Luria. To get all of the links that we talked about, you can check the description where you're listening to this or over at streamlined.fm/470. So for now, let's get into the interview. He has like a very NPR feel like to his voice when we do. And I feel like sometimes there's like a mismatch in energy because I'm like, hey, and he's like, hey, welcome to Start Local.
It's like having MKBHD with you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm like bringing like the YouTuber energy. And so like, I mean, I guess it's fine. Nobody's complained, but I just think it's funny that it's like very like different energy. So,
yeah.
So hey everybody, that was a cold open, trying that. Welcome to the Streamlined Solopreneur. I'm here with Luria, my gosh, I'm here with Luria Petrucci, which I didn't ask you how to pronounce your name ahead of time, but I think that's how you say it, right?
Fishing
Fantastic.
lure. If you think about a fishing lure, that's how you
Oh,
pronounce Luria.
love that.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, right, yeah. I'm really excited to talk to you. You're like an OG live streamer, I would say. Your setups always look amazing, even when you're like in between living arrangements somehow. Like you do a really great job of just creating a good, like professional looking space. And so I know that more podcasts or solopreneurs probably are interested in doing video these days. Yeah. It's really important.
It's a must.
It's a must. Social media is valuing that heavily, but also, you know, there are platforms that may not rely on algorithms where you'd want to leverage video. Though, like YouTube still relies on the algorithm, but it feels different than like Twitter's algorithm or whatever, right? So like,
well, every platform has an algorithm for sure. But at the end of the day, all of them work differently. All of them have their little nuances. But at the end of the day, it's really about human behavior in terms of that, right? It's just like make people happy, make people want to click, make people want to watch you.
yeah, and this is, as we record this, I feel like the biggest debate in the podcasting space, at least, is like, should you add video, right? Yeah. And one of the big reasons, if you're willing and able, right, because it is a large lift, but one of the things we're going to talk about today is how to make it a smaller lift or an easier lift. But like, one of the big benefits of video is you form a connection faster. Would you say that's true? Like people can see and hear you and understand you and they feel like they know you.
Yeah, when it comes to digital formats, I always think about everything in terms of actual in-person, human-to-human experiences. And so when it, like, if we were to text, right, then there's some things that could be misunderstood, misconstrued, right? There's like some potential for miscommunication. But there's text and then like there's blogs. And that's powerful in and of itself. And then you have audio, which is the podcasting, which is even more powerful because then you can put emotion into your voice, right? And you can hear the person, you can connect on a deeper level. Then you add another layer, video, and all of a sudden now we're having a conversation at a party and we can see each other's eyes, right? That's really, really super important for communication because and connection, because now, everybody says, right, the eyes are the window to the soul. Now you can deeply understand somebody and connect with them and really see all of the nuances of communication. You're seeing, you're hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, body language is a big part of it, but
It
like you
is.
said, like here, like cadence is, my wife will sometimes text me like okay with a period, and I'm like, is she mad at me?
Yeah.
And she's not. Like
She's doing other stuff.
she's just
Right.
writing okay, and like iOS probably added the period, right? Like, and
Yeah.
so
But if she's sitting in front of you with her arms crossed and
y-
she's got a stern look on her face and saying, okay, you know what's up and
right,
you know
yeah,
where you're sleeping
exactly.
tonight.
Yes, exactly. So I think that's so true. It's one of the reasons that like this podcast is about 9 years old now, and I've always like insisted on having the video on.
Yeah.
And I just recently started releasing it in like the last 30 episodes probably. But like I always wanted to see my guests because I wanted to
Yeah.
fully see like how they're delivering what they're saying.
Totally.
So
It makes all the difference in the world. It doesn't mean it has to be perfect video, right? It doesn't mean that it has to be hard, but it is a very a powerful form of communication.
yeah, absolutely. And I think we see that with how popular video is on social apps now,
For
right?
sure.
So awesome. So let's get into kind of I want to start with what makes a good camera presence, because I think there are, this show is for busy solopreneur parents, right? They probably know they need to do a million things, and video feels like a large lift. So I think there's like a couple of different areas where we can touch on this, right? One is gear. Obviously, I love talking about gear. But the other is kind of is like energy and demeanor and how you present yourself. So you're the expert. I'll let you pick what you want to touch on first, like gear or energy or
Well,
whatever.
let's
Or
get
if
the
I
gear
miss
out of the
something.
way because that is the first thing that people go to in their brains. Believe me, I have tried to get people to concentrate on something other than gear. And yet it's the first question that people have. Okay, I need to do video. What gear do I buy? I answer that daily, multiple times a day for people.
Yep.
And I do want to point out that it's not necessarily about the gear that you use. I can tell you all day long, and I have a free shopping list that you can have, like, of what to buy. But really, the most important thing is to understand why the gear matters. It gives you the instant credibility. So when you are showing up on video and you are an authority in your space, then it's about presenting yourself and creating that instant credibility with your viewer when you look good. Now, if you're, you've got laundry in the background, and that's not like you're talking about automation, and you've got like laundry in the background, kids running around, all of that can be super human and awesome and fun, but also it's not going to present you as the authority while you're speaking about your topic, right? So there's a mix and a match of that, or a balance of that. So it also gives you confidence in how you show up. Most people, when they feel like they look good and people are going to perceive them as professional, they feel more confident delivering their message.
Yeah, this is really a good way to frame good gear, right? Because
Yeah.
I keep thinking about like if you see two storefronts and one is like pristinely painted and has a nice, show in the window, and one has like broken glass and like a rusted doorknob. Like,
Yeah.
which are you gonna want? Like, the one with the rusted doorknob could like make the best pizza you've ever had, but like you're still
Right.
gonna, or whatever, make the best product that you've ever seen. But like you're gonna walk into the one that looks nicer because it doesn't feel like you're gonna get tetanus, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, totally. Now, if it were an antique shop, that actually might make sense, right?
right, yeah.
What's your
yes.
brand, and how do you want to show up within that brand? And I always say, what is the experience that you are looking to create with your audience? That instant credibility, the background, the way you're presenting, you're creating an experience for your audience with everything you say and do. And it doesn't have to be like a heavy lift to think about that. You're just creating, what emotion do you want your audience to take away from you?
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, right? My brand is I help busy solopreneur parents like create space in their lives. If my kids were running around in the background and like
Perfect.
yelling over me, right? Like while I had laundry in this setting, that might seem like I don't have control, right?
Well, that's true. Yes.
Right? Because this is my
Yes.
office, right? This is like supposed to be the good setup, right?
Yeah.
If like a kid is constantly screaming in the background of my podcast, it's like, I thought Joe had space in his life. But
Right. Yes.
there's something that you talked about at Cabo Press where that could be, right, good and for my brand, right? And it's the idea of I have influencer in the outline, but it's like thought leader versus like raw or
Human.
real human.
Yeah.
Love it. Human. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, as a thought leader, as an expert in your space, that's where the professional quality, the not having an unmade bed or laundry in the background makes perfect sense, because you are trying to gain credibility and you don't want to mix that message. Now, if my dog, like I have a pet cam, right? So
Mhm.
like I'm showing off my pet during a thought leader discussion
Yeah.
sometimes. And that's totally fine. But as a thought leader, you kind of want to separate that space. So professional video, and then there's time and place for raw human video. And that can be super casual. You can have your kids running around because
Hmm.
you could be on social doing a story or a reel, and you're tying that message of, oh my God, my kids are crazy in the background and I've got all of this laundry to do. Well, what if you had more space to be able to accomplish that, right? Or you could, give an example of how this is like I've fixed
Yeah.
this thing, right?
Right. I'm
And just
able to be here
connecting.
now. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a time and a place for professional quality video with that intentional output, and the time and place for more human raw content from your phone that's not in your studio. And also just connecting with people. Like, you don't have to tie it into your message either. People do want to see your food and your pets and those things in a social environment, because that's
Hmm.
why it's called social media. And we are being social with people. And have you ever had, a picture of, you're putting out a podcast and you're putting it all on social and you get crickets, and then you post a picture of your pizza and guess what? Everybody's like, yummy, that looks great. I want some. Where'd you get that? And
Hmm.
a lot of people get really frustrated by that phenomenon, where they're like, but they are following me because I'm a thought leader in this space, and then only pizza gets attention on my posts. I invite you to actually think of that as a really good thing, right? Instead of getting frustrated by it, it's natural human behavior. So lean into it. Use those human moments to connect with, dive deeper with your relationship with your viewers, and then they're more likely to want to click when you post a podcast link or content.
Yeah. This is, I think you said this, right? Food, kids, and pets.
The three universal languages: food,
Yeah.
pets, and kids.
Yeah. Which, absolutely my top performing short on YouTube last month or in the last couple of weeks, I forget now, is a interview I did with my daughter who was selling Girl Scout cookies, right? And so
Nice.
like we sat, we
Yes.
recorded about a minute and a half, like 900 views, right? Easily, and not that I post too many shorts, but like easily the top performing
Yeah.
one. Um, and so yeah, like I can, yeah, because most of my reels kind of feel like a lecture. I try really hard. I try to say things matter of fact, but like, again, I have that real strong dad energy. And so it's just like, you need to not use Zoom to record your podcast. It's like, don't tell me what to do. But like when I'm actually showing like I'm like a sensitive, helpful dad, people love that.
Totally, totally. It's so valuable to understand those differences and use them to your advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I promise that we will. I'll promise that you and I will both make at least one gear recommendation later because everyone's
Yes,
like, "What
for
mic
sure,
should
for
I
sure.
buy?" And I'm like,
I've even got props on my table ready to go for you.
"Perfect." But there's one more. There's one more thing I want to talk about here, and this is something that I heard. I heard it from someone who heard it from you, and this is that the camera steals energy. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so if we're talking about, what makes good presence on camera, it's all of those things that we've talked about, but it's also understanding how to show up from an energy standpoint. They always say, camera adds 10 pounds. That's not true. Maybe it did like when cameras began.
Right.
But cameras don't add pounds. They steal energy. They take away your energy. If you think about it from a physical perspective, I have to get my energy from me all the way to the camera, all the way through the lens to your monitor, through that, right? Then there's space between your monitor and your face. So I'm trying to reach through the lens to get to your eyeballs and match that energy. So, it's funny. No one ever questions that speakers on stage need to perform with more energy. That's never a question.
Yeah.
And yet, when we show up on video, that's a question. That's a sadness in people's brains or a broken link, I guess. But I want you to think about that. Not that like some people are fearful of speaking, but when you are watching a speaker at a conference, they are performing. It's not acting, but it is a performance. So if you and I are hanging out, having a glass together and some pizza, I'm going to keep coming back to pizza for some reason.
I'm cool with that. From New York, I love pizza. Yeah.
If you and I are hanging out, like you're going to hear that laugh from me, but I'm also going to be like super cash, right? I'm going to have energy. I'm not anybody different. You and I were hanging out in Cabo, and like, do you feel like I'm any different in person than on camera? Like as a human personality?
No.
Right.
Yeah,
But
right.
I'm actually sitting here. I'm actually sitting today, but you should be standing to bring that posture, to bring that energy, and the reality is like I am amping that up a little bit in terms of the level of my voice. I might, if I were to have this conversation with you in person, the level of my voice might be a couple of octaves. I don't know technical
Decibels, right?
Decibels.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm not an audiophile. It would be a couple of points lower.
Right.
And so that's something to consider when you're presenting on camera. We don't want to act like a different person. We want to just amp up and 2x, 3x, 4x our energy level.
Yeah, because I like how you framed it. Right. It's like we're not standing in front of each other. We are separated by multiple screens and monitors and stuff.
Time zones and everything.
Yeah. And then for people who are watching this after the fact, like, it's captured and recorded and you can maybe still feel the energy, but it's definitely different from being there live, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a reason that sitcoms have a laugh track, right? Or they have a live audience laughing, right?
Yeah.
If you were in the audience, you're more likely to laugh when other people are laughing. But when you're watching at home, if no one else is laughing, then you might like just do like a sensible chuckle, right? There's like different levels of it. So I guess the what you said, like amp it up. Don't be a different person, right? But
Yes,
amp it up a little bit.
exactly.
I'm standing right now. But I've given myself room to do my normal hand gestures. I'm maybe talking a little louder than I normally talk, which is really hard because again, I'm New York Italian and we're just very loud in general. But because I want that energy to come
Exactly.
across because
Yes.
I don't want people to get bored listening
Right.
to me. So,
Yeah, and that's
yeah.
yes. No, you said it perfectly. I'll shut up.
Awesome. well, so I am thinking about some people I've watched on YouTube. Foolish Bailey is a channel that comes to mind. His target demo he does really deep baseball dives.
Okay.
Really just super interesting. I consider myself a baseball fan, and he is like putting different letters in front of WAR, which is wins above replacement, that I've never heard before. So like I like watching his videos, but
Yeah.
I think he's using the built-in camera. You can see his bed and his laundry basket, right? And so I think people see that and his videos do well, and they think,
Yeah.
does it matter if the content is good? Like if what I'm saying is helpful, does the delivery or setup really matter?
Well, I like to think of it as basic, one-on-one communication.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would throw it you. I'm gonna throw the ball in your court. No, that's
Yeah.
basketball. Never mind. I shouldn't talk sports. But does it matter how you communicate to your partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it matter how, like, do you expect them to read your mind? If you say, hey, honey, I have a bit of an issue in how you talk to me today because you were stressed, like, does it matter how you deliver that message? I would say yes, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Does
Yeah.
it matter how you teach your kid not to cross the street without looking both ways? Right? That
Yeah.
matters. This is communication 101 in terms of how you're presenting and what you are communicating. And today's attention spans, as we all know, is really, really bad, right? And so I want you to think about it from that perspective. Now, as to your point, this guy is, doing well, and he's got the laundry in the back. And I know of very, very popular streamers, like some of the most popular streamers in the world. And there are some, people who are super successful on YouTube who just like literally don't have anything going on. They're just talking for hours and hours and hours and
Mm-hmm.
not framing that. Now, that's their choice in terms of the environment that they're creating. And for that to work, there has to be, it is totally a not provable system,
Yeah.
if that makes sense,
It's
right?
ineffable is the word that is a word I like
Yes.
to use. Yeah.
Yes. And so if you want to try it and go for that, go for it. It 99.9% won't work.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want it, right? Like it's okay. Go do it. If it works, great. But the thing is, if you really want to present yourself as right a credible factor, and who is your audience, that matters too, right? These people that I'm talking about, their audience are teens, right? they don't
Yeah.
they don't have that need for the credibility factor. So it really matters in terms of who you're talking to, how you're talking to them. And most of your audience, most of the people I talk to, there's a need for that communication thought process, right?
Yeah. This is a great point. And again, Foolish Bailey is, I think it's Bailey. Gosh, Foolish Baseball. But his channel is baseball stats. His target audience is 20 something men, right?
There you go.
Who,
Yeah.
yeah. And so like they're not going to care as much, right? So
Right.
as long as they get the info or like the breakdowns that they're looking for, right? So I think you're absolutely right, and I would say that people like that are more the exception not the rule, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
It reminds me of, I won't name names or places, but I worked for an organization where there were some C-level suite people making $500,000 for their base salary. And I saw them walking on campus. Oh, it was at a college. I saw them walking on campus, and their pants, their suit pants, came down below their heel, and their suit jacket came down below their thumb. And I'm like, you are making $500,000. You need to wear a better suit. And some people will say, does it matter if he spends most of his day in an office? But yes, people won't necessarily, maybe they won't be able to say, oh, like that guy's jacket is way too big, right? If it's way too big, they'll notice. But if it's like slightly too big, they'll be like, I don't. But they'll know something seems off, right?
Yeah.
And that thing will distract from your message.
Exactly. That's really, really well put. Yeah, it's like it's what I talk about in terms of backgrounds and creating your background. If you have a whole bunch of things in your background that are pulling attention, or if you're using a virtual background and you're seeing this weird, like, you know, like you're one of my students, and I was like, stop. But you, like, his head was getting, cut off by the virtual background.
Yeah.
And so, like, all of a sudden, like, is he bald, or is his head missing? Is he an alien because it's growing bigger? Like, there's all these things going in my head around, and he's asking me a question, and I'm like, I can't even concentrate on the question because is he an alien?
Right.
And so that's the same as to, your background. It's the same to how you're presenting yourself. It's the same for all of these things that we're talking about. It matters because you want your message heard, which is, what you're saying.
Yeah. And I want to give you credit. I don't, this is not a paid ad for Cabo Press, but I love Cabo Press. And
So much.
So much. I think, like, just of the sushi place all the time. But I got a little free coaching from you at Cabo Press because I have put a lot of time and energy into my setup, and I wanted to get your take on it. And you offered, because I think one of the things, like, I have like a lot of tchotchkes. It's very like Joe personality behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like it's more en vogue to have like a blank wall and a plant and a light shooting up, right? Like a color light shooting up, right? So you gave me really good advice on, like, hey, this is fine as long as there's some sort of like organization to the chaos, right?
Yeah.
I think that, like, maybe we could talk about that a little bit, because I know, like, there are people who are limited in budget and scope and location. When we bought our house, one of my requirements was a dedicated office because I'm self-employed and I work from home. And, but not everybody has that. So
Yeah.
can you talk about, like, the maybe different types of backgrounds, and if someone has like limited resources, how they might fix it a little bit without using a virtual background?
Right. Yeah. So I want you to answer the question, what feeling do you want your audience to have? What experience are you creating? And in my old studio before I moved, it was my living room. So you saw my window back there. Don't ever do that. I did some advanced stuff to make that okay. But you see my brick wall and my plants, and it's my living room. And I wanted the feeling to be, I'm inviting you into my home and we're going to hang out together. Here, I have a very techie kind of LED light background because this set that I'm using currently is meant to be my tech review station. So I want it to feel very techy, right? Because you're going to see me do reviews and test product and things like that in this environment. But my main set that I'm building out right now, again, I just moved, is going to have more of the, moss wall and the thing that I'm kind of, it's going to have some tchotchkes on that, the books that I love that have made a big
Yeah.
impact. Something, for my first Broadway show, Lion King, that I shared with my
Nice.
partner. Like,
Yeah.
so there are things that mean something to me, but it's also a statement of my personality because it has reclaimed wood stuff and moss wall, and I'm an outdoors girl, and I love my hiking and my paddle boarding. So, there's what is the feeling that you want your audience to have, and what do you want to invite them into? Personality, like you have right now, is I am going to at some point get a behind the scenes look at what all of those things are and what they mean to
Hmm.
you. If you want to, one of my students, my bourbon whiskey, is his channel
Nice.
name, and so his background is all bourbon, shelves and shelves of bourbon. I can't even imagine how much he spent on that, but
Oh
that's
man,
besides the
that
point.
sounds like a
It's
lot.
like wall of bourbon. But he's basically saying you're in the right place. Like, if you want to talk bourbon, like, you're in the right place because
Yeah.
that's what we do here. So that's how I want you to kind of think about the background. And if you have limited space, there are lots of things that you can do. This background that I'm using with the LED wall, it's literally 3D wall panels. And I have a video on my YouTube channel about how I built it, but it's literally just all I need is a wall to put those
Hmm.
on. And if you don't have a wall that you can put things on and you need your living room in the background or something like that, then angles make a big difference, right? Is like that's what you experience is, a slight shift in an angle can make all the difference in the world. Just think about what you're seeing back there.
Yeah, that's super helpful. I think that's really good. I think I need to do a behind the scenes now of what people
Yeah.
are seeing behind me.
Yes, you do.
Um, Also, like, you're talking about sets, and I'm like, man, the other thing that this has done for me, and I think I was saying this earlier before we started recording, is it's opened up a lot of possibilities for me because, like, this microphone can swing out, and I can have a different background. I have right now, like, my fountain pen collection is over there, but like I have an overhead light, and like a shelf where I can clip a camera to, and I can do like overhead stuff if I want, and so. Um, there's if you get a little creative, there's a lot of possibilities. I can also tell you that I suspect we're both using Ecamm Live's virtual camera right now.
Yes.
And this is a heavy. So if I would encourage you to go at least check out the YouTube video for this one, since we're talking so much about setups. But
Yeah.
this is a pretty heavy crop that I present. Right, if I zoom out, that's too far. You can
There you go.
see that
Yeah.
there's a lot more here, right? But
Yeah.
I zoom in, make myself a little fuller in the frame,
There
and
you go.
I kind of crop out some of my sidewall. So
Yep.
there's a lot you can do with proper framing, and I want to give a shout out to your video with Renee Ritchie, or the video you did for Renee Ritchie, right?
Oh,
Essentially,
okay.
where you
Yeah.
critique his setup,
Where
I think.
where I said you're doing it all wrong.
Yeah. But I think that was really good. I mean, he's like the YouTube creator liaison, right?
Yeah.
Is that his official title? Um, and I think like it's it's hard for it's hard to see the forest for the trees, right? Or like it's hard to
Yeah,
read the label from inside the bottle. And so
it is.
I can see this is a massive improvement from my previous setup. What I might not see is what we were talking about earlier, where the lights are maybe a little bit too bright, right? Or whatever, right? Or
Right.
something.
Yeah, I had pointed out that your lights have a bit of a like a hot spot, like
Yeah.
there's a focused spot
Yeah.
of light. And you can soften that up a bit in a few different ways. But yeah, that video was if you are struggling to, find the right background, that video was super helpful for people in terms of saying all he needed was a shift in angle
Hmm.
because he's, as you said, he's the YouTube liaison and he wasn't presenting as authority because it looked messy in the background.
Hmm.
And his main set for his own personal channel was spectacular, and my point
Right.
was, why doesn't this one look spectacular, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the angle shift, because he wanted cameras and lights in the background, but all I was seeing was the power box for the light and the cables and things that just looked messy. But by shifting the angle, he was able to get that look and feel that he was going for, and make it look really cool and intentional versus, oh, I'm just pointing a camera at me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so before we get to the kind of how to actionable advice, I want to remind people that this could be an iterative process, right? You don't need a
Yes,
perfect setup
absolutely.
first
Yeah, it's
time.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a process. Don't get hung up on perfection by any means. Just get your content out. That is the most important thing for sure. But you have a goal to work towards over time.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and I guess like last thing here, right, is if we have to prioritize what to work on, right?
Yeah,
What would you say? Let's say someone's never done video, they're a little bit uncomfortable.
yeah.
What should they work on first?
Audio is the most important thing. Well, I would say, yeah, audio is definitely the most important thing of any video, because if you're hurting people's ears, they won't come back to you.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, but it doesn't have to be great audio. I'm currently, because I just moved and I haven't officially set up, I'm currently using a USB mic. It's plug and play. It's, not the best audio I'll ever get, but it is decent, and it's good audio.
Hmm.
So I don't want you to achieve audiophile level audio, because that takes extra expense and a little bit more of work. But a USB mic is perfectly acceptable. The Elgato Wave 3 is a fantastic option from that perspective. Framing also matters. So regardless of what camera you're using, if you're like way down in the frame and you're
Yeah.
slouching and you've got your head positioned in the middle of the frame, you're actually losing attention immediately. So what we want is to position ourselves at the top of the frame with less headroom. So like just the space between the top of the camera frame and your head should be about a little, just like an inch or less. And Joe is currently
Yeah.
adjusting now.
That's interesting, because I'm really glad you said that, because that was something I was worried about, was that do I have enough headroom?
Yeah.
And I guess it's like a little bit to show that you could see the top of the head, but
Yeah, you
when
don't
you're
want to be
full,
cutting your
yeah,
head off, right?
right.
But you don't want to be in the middle of the frame. There is science behind where our eyes land on a video. And if you are way down below the top of the frame, they are paying attention to things other than your face and losing that message. So that's really important. And then from there, your camera, you can instantly increase these days. Honestly, like if you have a newer Mac, or those have amazing webcams. Like
Hmm.
I have shown up on videos just to test what people say or think, because I'm the girl who teaches you how to have professional quality video, so people pay
Yeah.
attention. I was in a different environment, trying to make my video look the same as my existing home at one point, and I got so many comments about my audio had changed. Like my viewers pay attention to these things, right?
Hmm.
So I did a video, I think it was a live stream, using only the Mac camera, and nobody said a thing. They were like, "Oh, what camera are you using?" Which is normal. And they thought I was using a pro level camera
Yeah.
with a big lens and all of the whole thing, but I wasn't. So I will say, to start out, those cameras are fantastic. and totally acceptable. If it looks grainy, if it looks blurry, then you don't have a newer one, so step it up. And you can get webcams that are decent to get you started down that path for $60, the Elgato Neo Cam face cam. Not my favorite, but $60.
Right. Yeah.
Or you can kind of go for a more high level, like $500 range. And then if you care about blur in the background, like you have, then you are looking at a more pro level camera. And Sony's are my favorite. They just work for this type of setup. So Sony cameras, but you're looking in the price range of $800 to $1,200 with the right lens. That's what makes that blurry background. It's the camera and the lens that allow that to happen. So if you want more control, more pro level look, then you're going to need a pro level budget.
Yeah, for sure. And I was told that kind of lens matters more than body. Is that
correct? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
I have a fixed I have the one that I have the Sony
That
A6400
came with the camera.
Oh no, I have like the Sigma lens, the 15
Sigmas,
or the
16.
Yeah, exactly. That one. It's got a fixed, and that's what's creating the bokeh.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Bokeh, bokeh.
Bokeh, yeah.
Everybody argues over what it's called, but I say bokeh.
Okay, that's what feels right to me. But yeah, the blur effect behind it.
Yeah, the blur, but in the background. Yeah.
Now, how important is lighting?
Lighting is massively important. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Lighting can change everything. If you are using a webcam and you're not getting great looking video, the right lighting can make all the difference in the world. Now, lighting is one of those things that makes people really angry because they don't know what they're looking for. And there's one thing is window lighting is acceptable to start, but not acceptable for long term. Window lighting is uncontrollable. So if you're shooting for an hour and you're going to go edit that, then there's going to be a difference. So you're going to cut from light to dark, and it's going to be an awkward experience for your audience. So we want to control our light, meaning you want to close those blinds. You want to use lights specifically for that. You want to turn off overhead lights and make sure that you're using front lights at you. You can go from simple Elgato panel lights. The key lights are a great option for simple and low profile. But the bigger the light is, the better the light is. So if you have the space for it, I'm using dome lights or big soft boxes.
Like box, yeah.
Yeah. So the bigger it creates this softer effect. And so keep that in mind when you're looking at lights. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be simple and easy. Just make sure that you're looking for hot spots, meaning if you can't see the wrinkles on your skin, you probably have a hot spot because we all have wrinkles. I am exaggerating when I say that. It's the texture that you're looking for, right? So if you can't see some texture to the skin, you're too blown out. And normally people will have this really bright spot on their forehead.
Oh, yeah, like the shine.
The
like
shine
a shine
effect.
from the light.
Yeah. And what I have right now, if you're watching the video, is normal. But when it's in your face, shiny, that's too much. If it's too dark and you have shadows under your nose or here on the chin, and you're getting these harsh shadows, you don't have enough light on that source. So those are the things to look out for.
Yeah, that's really smart. Another benefit of we didn't really talk about desk placement, but I was sharing with you that I call it OCD, call it whatever. I just like don't want my desk in the middle of the room. So mine's against the wall. I have two Elgato key lights pointed similarly at me. So I think I'm pretty evenly lit, kind of based on
Yeah.
everything you said. But it did take me a while to dial in. And the reason I have these is because I feel like a white light makes me look a little more blown out.
Yeah.
And so I have it on a warmer setting. And then I have some lights behind me to kind of
Yeah.
separate me from the background a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's a big thing. And by the way, you don't have to write down notes of all of these things. Like I think you're going to put a link to like
Yeah,
a shopping
there'll be a
list
link
that
in the
I've
show notes.
prepared.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you don't have to think about like, oh, what did they just say or rewind.
Yeah.
That's all done for you. But the background when people aren't happy with their video, oftentimes it's because you're blending into the background. There's no, as you said, separation between you and the background. And when basically it's hard to describe without showing.
Yeah.
But a light between you and your background is a really quick way. We call that a hair light, or a background light. And putting a light basically on your head and shoulders can do all the difference in the world. It can make all the difference in the world in terms of separation. Basically what that's doing is giving you depth, right? It looks like there's depth versus you stuck up against a wall.
Right. Which, I mean, I know we just said don't use virtual backgrounds, but I suspect the better lighting will make that effect a little bit better too. Maybe.
A little bit better,
Maybe,
yeah.
a little bit better. Maybe.
Yeah, it can. But also, now there are all kinds of effects on computers and software and things like Zoom. But the level of blur that you do within those virtual backgrounds matters as well. So it could have an effect, but if you have the blur all the way up, then it's not going to help at
The
all.
blur all the way up cuts off my beard and looks very
Yeah.
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 Awesome. Man, wow, we've talked about a lot of stuff. Okay, so we touched on the gear. Livestreampros.com/gear is the one that I have, right? We'll link to yours. I have like a podcaster's guide too. So
There you go. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And I also have a lighting guide, so that might be
Awesome.
super helpful for people to really understand how to light, where you put your lights, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that would be great because I've always been of the opinion that like even if you have a crummy camera, if you have good lights, the camera doesn't have to work as hard, right? Like you're providing good lighting. So
Exactly.
yeah, and I mean these days like your iPhone or your smartphone probably has a great camera in it. And so I know that like when Apple rolled out like the ability to use your iPhone as a webcam, that felt like a game changer for me and a lot of people, right? That's like my iPhone's like my B camera now, right? So I'll like mount it and get like a second view.
Yeah.
So camera B camera, that sounded really weird saying that. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, it's B roll is where you're pulling that from, but the second camera.
Oh yeah, maybe it's like camera 1, 2. That's how people actually refer to them, right?
Probably, yeah. Camera 1, camera 2, demo cam, if you're using it specifically for a demo cam. I call them by what they're pointing at, right? So like if I have a pet cam, then it's a pet cam. If I'm showing off Abby the Chihuahua.
Yeah. Nice. Very nice. Cool. All right. Yeah, that would be super helpful, I think. Because like you said, like lighting... the key lights are like $150, but like Neewer makes lights or like a box light.
Yeah.
I had a soft light in the entrance to my office and I removed it because it wasn't on me. It was just lighting the room. And I'd have to duck every time I walked by it. And since I've removed it, I still duck when I hit that spot. It's like a very hard habit. So something... as we're wrapping up here, the last kind of two things I want to mention is, well, we touched on presence already.
Yeah.
But is there a way I want to say, is there like a hack to be better? But I think it's really like, do it. Is it like,
Yeah.
do it? Yeah.
To steal from Nike, just do it.
Yeah.
You know, I will say this, the reason that it's hard is because of fear, which may
Hmm.
sound obvious, but you're fearful of how people will perceive you. You're fearful of what people will think or say. You're fearful of being too or to being too human. And so there's a difference between being professional and gaining that instant credibility with the tech, the visual aspect of it. That's, I believe important. The professionalism should never be your personality. Those two things should be working in parallel, not
Hmm.
intertwined. So stop trying to be so professional. Put out a professional view of you, but your personality, the way you show up in your presence, should be human, should be you, and like you are beautiful. And I have a whole program that I kind of go into, like how you release the fear of your flaws coming out. But you are not flawed. You are beautiful as a human being. And those things are going to connect with your audience with the right fit for your audience. And that's okay. It's okay to stumble over your words. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to be human. And especially in this world of AI, it is massively important to not sound AI, not sound too
Hmm.
professional, and be human. My stomach is growling and
Yeah.
I'm hungry. Sorry. I didn't have time to eat this
Oh,
morning.
you and me both. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like that's okay. And so, that's one thing is being comfortable being you on camera. And part of that is releasing the need for perfection and worrying about what people are going to think about you. If you're delivering the content that they want, that's all they're caring about. And they want to connect with other human beings. And then the other side of it is the just doing it. Video is weird. Video is uncomfortable. Video is not natural. That's why I always tie it to the in-person experience. One of the things that people worry about when being on video, I get this question all the time. It's like, I feel like my eyes are darting all over the place. And somehow when we show up on video, we feel like we need to be staring the
Yeah.
camera in the face. When in fact, if we were talking at a party, you and me, and I didn't know you, Joe, and you were staring me down and never blinking, never looking off, I would be running
Yep.
screaming from you, right?
Yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
it's
As you should.
natural. Yes. Like, what is this guy doing?
This guy's
Um,
weird.
yeah, it's natural to look off, think with your eyes, look at
Right.
notes, like that. All of that is okay. So stop trying to be so perfect and just do it over and over and over. And yes, it's going to be awkward at first. Your first videos are going to be horrible. My first videos were squeaky. Like my first video is still online and I was talking in this high-pitched voice. What? Who is
Yeah.
that?
Right. Yep.
Right? So it's going to be bad. It just is. And let it suck. You didn't ride the bike the first time out. You did not get good in your profession the first time out, your first day on the job, quote unquote, the first day in school. Like you didn't know everything. You didn't have it perfect. Let it be that.
Yeah. You don't know what you need to improve until you actually start doing stuff either.
Exactly.
Like, and so
Exactly.
I like that a lot. I want to reinforce I really wish I had my first video at the ready because I'm pretty sure it was filmed like in my bedroom and I'm like low in the frame.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
like, here's how you enable SSL for your website. But I feel very confident on camera now.
Yeah.
So I I spoke at Podfest in January, and it was my first speaking gig since the pandemic because I had left the WordPress space and I was still like making a name for myself. And so I finally got accepted, and I texted like a mastermind group I'm a part of, and I'm like, hey, like, which of these outfits look better for when I speak this morning? Which is something I have never ever asked anybody. Um, and my friend Vinny, like, shout out to Vinny Potestivo, he was like, which outfit are you more comfortable in? Because that is what will help you deliver the best talk. And I'm like, man, I can't, like, I've been doing this, I've been public speaking for years.
Yeah.
And like, I just got in my head a little bit too much. So,
It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, like, do what you're comfortable with.
Confidence only comes from action. You will never gain confidence sitting there thinking about anything, right? Like, just think
Mm-hmm.
about anything else that
Mm.
you've gained confidence in. It doesn't come from sitting there thinking, fearing, planning, doing all of the tech setup in order to avoid shooting the video. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is why I used to spend a ton of time geeking out about the tech with my students. I used to teach them everything they needed to know about the camera settings and the lighting settings and all of the tech stuff. And over the last couple of years, I became hardcore about simplifying those concepts because, and I literally took away all my courses 2 years ago and redid them because what I saw was people were going through my courses, learning all of the things, and spending a year to 3 years, 6 months to 3 years, just soaking up that information, trying to make it perfect. And when I got down to the roots of why they weren't taking action, or they would come to me and like, no, I still haven't done a video yet, I realized they were using the tech as a procrastination tool.
Mm-hmm.
It is a tool. It should be a tool for you delivering your message, because if you're not having the impact on the world that the reason that you're here thinking about all of this stuff, and what are you doing, right?
Right.
So I got really like, I stopped teaching you what ISO means on your camera. I stopped teaching you all of these nitpicky things, and I just started saying, all you're going to do is press this button and it's going to look amazing. And it got people from waiting 6 months to 3 years to taking action and putting their videos out in 2 weeks. And it was life changing for my students, life changing for me. And that's what I want to like really encourage you to think about when you find yourself spending time thinking about waiting, not putting those videos out. It's a procrastination tool. You are waiting and hoping for something to magically happen within yourself that is not going to without action. So confidence only comes from action.
Yeah, that's great. It makes me think of the episode of How I Met Your Mother, where like Ted is starting his architecture firm, and he's
I
really
never watched
concerned.
it.
Oh man, he's really concerned about the official pen of Mosbius Designs. And
Okay.
so like he's like trying a bunch, and then like another character, Robin, was like, "What's going on?" And he's like, what if I don't remember the books?" Because I guess there's like this famous architecture problem where they built the library, but they didn't consider the weight of the books,
Oh no.
and it was like not on stable enough ground. And it's just like that's what all of the gear stuff is, right? Exactly. It's
Yeah.
just a procrastination tool. So,
Yeah.
um, okay. Last thing, software. Um,
Yeah.
we have both mentioned, well, at least I mentioned for both of us, Ecamm Live. Are there? How much does it matter, and what do you recommend?
Yeah. Um, you have the ability to do everything broadcast quality TV does. You can look like CNN. You can look like whatever your favorite one is.
Yeah. Which by the way makes like the pandemic era late night show filming from home like even worse.
I
In my
know. If I hadn't been so busy, the pandemic for me was crazy. Like I didn't have the same experience that everybody else had because I got
hmm
so busy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I
Like
bet. Oh my
because
gosh.
everybody was like learning
Yeah.
to stream and do
Right.
video and
And everybody wanted to start a podcast.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
exactly. And if I had had a little bit more capacity in my time, I would have totally done roasts of all of the weathermen in their living room trying to do green screen and right, like
Yep.
all of these news anchors shooting from home. I'm like, what? You have
Yeah.
the capability to do it
Right.
all and look amazing and look like a TV station.
hmm
Now, do you need to do that straight out of the gate? No, you don't have to. However, you have the capability. And what I will say about that is that you is using that capability as you're able to is actually going to give you the ability to get more engagement from your viewers, get more buy-in from your viewers, sell easier. Those are actually the tech. When the tech meets your personality, it can actually create much higher conversions, whether we're talking engagement or or purchases. That's something to consider. Now, backing it way up, there are two soft. There you can just go live from. You can go live or record video from your phone from the platform tools. They won't give you a lot of capabilities. So what I like to kind of give you a frame of reference is you can either use browser-based solutions, that would be StreamYard, EVMux, Riverside, and those have tools that give you the capability to do interviews, to put some basic graphics on screen, and do all of the things that you need to do. Those are really simple and easy to use. They do not have the same capabilities to go that next level and be broadcast TV. Like you can't do, fun like unique animations on
Ooh.
screen. If you're watching, I'm throwing one.
Yeah.
But there's, all these capabilities that when you go to the next level and have downloadable software like Ecamm on Mac, vMix on a PC, then you have full control. They're a little bit more of a heavier lift in terms of learning curve. So those are the kind of pros and cons. You have a less learning curve on the browser-based solutions, but less capabilities. You have more of a learning curve and more capabilities on the downloadable software.
Yeah, love that. I got to get some of those fun animations because the only thing I throw are like GIFs, right? Like,
Which you can do too, yeah.
yeah,
I have a
but
whole graphics store full of animations and tools for you,
ooh, I guess I'm
overlays,
going
all the
shopping
things.
after this.
Yeah, you
Nice.
are.
Ah, that's amazing. Um, Luria, this has been, I mean, I could keep talking for, I love this stuff. You are an absolute professional. We didn't roll out your credentials, but you've worked for and you've set up studios for a lot of impressive people. And so, I mean, I don't want to name names, but if you want to throw a couple names out there, feel free.
Yeah, so I have the honor of being able to build studios for Michael Hyatt, Amy Porterfield, Jamie Kern Lima, Pat Flynn, not his current one, but like crazy amazing people that I've gotten to work with, and also run live productions for Marie Forleo and people like
Mm.
her, and like these amazing humans that I get to work with that I'm so grateful. But I also, my goal for what I do is to take those concepts and help anyone do it themselves.
Okay, so this is like a not so shameless promotion because you have shared so much great information for free, but you have like a few courses, products that can help people. One is the Bold Video Bundle, right? And then there's one that we haven't touched on at all that has been a game changer for me. So tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah. So when I said that I got really focused on simplifying tech for people, the result of that was the Bold Video Bundle, which is just an on-demand course, but it's the best thing to having me be able to show up to your home like I do with
Mm,
Michael and Amy and right, everybody else.
yeah.
Because I call it a paint by number style system. And the reason I do that is because I am able to, within that program, simplification of tech was the hardest thing, and so proud of how easy it became for
Mm,
people. I show you what the thing is. I tell you exactly what to buy, and then I show you exactly how to plug it in. So you're
love
doing
it.
it. You watch me plug everything in from start to finish, and you're doing what I do. And it became so simple for people to just get their low profile but professional setup done, easy out the door. It was funny. I was on a Zoom call with somebody, and I was complimenting her video. I was like, Marla, you look amazing. Like that set looks great. And she was like, oh yeah, I learned it from you. I took the Bold Video Bundle. I had no idea.
Oh, that's awesome.
And she was like, and I've never heard from her. Like, I didn't get a question in support from her. Like, I didn't write any
Wow.
of that. She just took it, did it, got it done, and she's showing up like amazing. So I'm really proud of that from a standpoint of getting people to not procrastinate with the tech anymore, and just being able to have that impact so they can deliver their content and their message. The thing that you were mentioning, so teleprompters are an interesting thing. It is the number one requested thing from people who come into my world, and they don't even know why.
Hmm.
Teleprompters are known for being a scripting tool, right? And but teleprompter is the number one accessory that I would recommend you have. Well, then there's the stream deck, but from a teleprompter standpoint, people want teleprompters to be able to script or put bullet points on, but they actually serve so much more purpose. Right now, I'm using my teleprompter not to script or have notes, but to look you in the eye as we're having a
Hmm.
conversation.
Yeah.
And that changes the world. As you're doing interviews and podcasts, you can put your video up on the teleprompter so you can see that there's spinach in your tea.
Yes.
You can do Zoom calls not looking down, right? We were talking about the fact that relate to everything in person. When people are looking down, guess what? When you and I are at a party and you're looking down, not good, not
Right. Yeah.
appropriate, like
Yeah. Right.
uncomfortable from both perspectives.
Yeah.
So that's something to really consider, is when you're on a Zoom call and you're looking down, it is not a human experience that is right? It feels awkward. So that's one of the things that teleprompters can do for you. So I do have a, super inexpensive $97, teleprompter course, so exactly what to buy, how to set it up, and how to actually use it if you are scripting, how to present well, how to read that
Hmm.
well.
Yeah.
Most people don't actually script well on prompters.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say probably me. Like I would put myself in that category. I'm much more of a put the outline on the prompter and
Yeah.
just kind of. Now, the guy we were talking about earlier, Justin Moore, I learned that all of his videos are scripted and off of a prompter, and it blew my mind because
Yeah.
it's so natural. So,
Yeah. And
but yeah,
there's
for
so
most
I
people, it's tough.
it's sorry, I can shut up.
No, no,
But
no, no.
I
You're the guest.
the,
Keep going. Yeah.
the reason so I know some tricks because I was doing a professional shoot, multi-million dollar shoot early in my day of recording videos, and they had on set a teleprompter operator. And I was like, oh, that's a thing. Okay, they're making the words go up and down. But
Hmm.
on a break, she pulled me over. She said, hey, Luria, come over here. I noticed that I noticed that you stumble anytime there's a two-letter word at the end of the line, like two, am, right? Anything like two letters throws you off. And so, like, what I've done is I've put all of those on the next line for you. And
Mm,
that blew my mind that there are like
yeah.
little bitty nuanced strategies to reading from a teleprompter. And from that day on, no one could ever tell that I was reading a prompter when I do. Like those are the types of things that I put into that course, but it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, like there's actual strategy to this stuff. You can actually improve, and there's a reason why you're like robotic on the camera.
Right. Oh man. Oh, that's amazing. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I'm going to link to all of that in the description for this, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening in your podcast player. The links will all be there. Luria, this was so great. If
I love
people
hanging
want to
out with
learn,
you.
likewise. Ah, man, this is. I know we're both starving.
I'm
So
sorry, my stomach keeps.
me too. And I've got like another meeting after this, but so I want us both to be able to eat before the rest of our day.
Okay,
But
sounds
if
good.
people want to learn more, if people want to learn more about you, where can they go?
Livestreamingpros.com has everything, but also come hang out with me on my YouTube channel. YouTube.com/livestreamingpros, and I'm live every week. I put out videos every week, so come learn. Not even geek out with me, but hang out with me. Ask questions. I do a lot of Q&As there.
Yeah, that's great. And they're, I mean, I know you're a pro, but like they're so like natural. They don't feel like, and I think watching you will give people confidence that it doesn't have to be super hard. I think your delivery is really good. So I'm a
Thank
fan.
you.
Um,
Thanks.
so yeah, of course. And thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to everybody listening. You can find everything in the description or over at streamlined.fm. But until next time, I hope you find some space in your week.